Hey guys, Ebomi here, and as you can see from the video, the fun and the project and the add-ons to the Mosin just never end. And it doesn't get much better than when you can actually have the owner of the company, John Hoover from Hoover Concepts.
Trigger guy.
The trigger guy. And giving credit where credit is due, you guys recognize Jason Shade, my very highly recommended tactical firepower handgun systems. We were on the phone talking, trigger geometry. No, I'm just kidding. That was just for John. And Jason told me if you want to actually have the best trigger system that you can possibly have, you have to try out Hoover Concepts. So all of a sudden, the man's right here in the man cave, and he's going to be installing one of his custom. Can I show this?
Yes.
One of his custom triggers. Bad lighting. It's all shiny.
Never enough lighting.
Never enough lighting. One of his custom triggers in the Mosin Sporter project. So I'm actually glad both of you guys could make it. I'm glad that you happened to put me in contact with John, because it's been very interesting. We've obviously already been talking, did breakfast, and you I don't know, it'd be an under-exaggeration to say it's a very interesting when you start to look at what makes a trigger happen. There's so much disinformation or assumed information when it comes to triggers, and sometimes more is not better. So I don't know if you had anything actually that you wanted to say prior to doing this. Otherwise, when you're ready, we'll relocate the camera.
What I'm finding out is not only is it important to be able to say, hey, we can fix the trigger, but if I don't educate you on how this thing works, application of all that really fine equipment is a moot point, because what I intended was to give the advantage to the shooter, give him the edge, not just saying, hey, I can put all kinds of bells and whistles in a gun and it's going to definitely shoot better. I believe that you change the one part, everything else being equal, this will improve your shooting ability by a factor of 3 or 4. I'll cut your group size in half.
Well, we'll definitely find that out. I don't know. It's after talking to you and seeing what actually goes into the trigger world. There's a lot there. You better have plenty of coffee if you're going to get this man rolling.
That's okay. Besides, changing the trigger out is the fastest, easiest, cheapest thing you can do to any rifle. Inside of 15 to 30 minutes, you're going to be getting all the benefits of that one little part that you're putting all kinds of money into. What? Fancy stocks, hey, all kinds of bling. But is it really applied science that's going to put you on target when you need it?
Well, case in point, once again, the reason that I got to get together with the guys today is Jason here, like I mentioned in my video, not only is responsible for his training in handguns, but he's also a very qualified gunsmith. And tell me, how many times have you worked with the Hoover Concepts triggers?
At least a couple dozen. The first one was back when I was in gunsmithing school. We tried a lot of different triggers in there, and none of them were perfect and safe. And that was one of the problems we kept crossing, is you could get it ultra light, but you slam the bolt super hard or you bounce the gun on the ground, it's going to discharge. And with these triggers, I have used a lot of them in Mausers specifically, and you can get them ultra light, ultra crisp, and yet you can bounce them really hard before you can get them to go off. So it's just a rock solid design. So
are you saying that a lot of these guys could actually go to their gun store right now today and buy a well-known name brand rifle, and by dropping it have a failure and a fire out of them?
I gotta preface this here.
Yep.
There's no replacements for safety first right here. Doesn't matter how safe that gun is. If you're not safe here, I wouldn't want to hunt with you. So we try and make it as safe as you can be. Anything other than when you're ready to shoot, the safety goes off. But if you're not shooting it and you're going to be throwing your gun up and down the mountain or doing monkey drills with it, you should be unsafe. You know, it's only safety first, proper discipline.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
It actually is kind of shocking to know that you could go buy a gun, a modern hunting rifle, and with a live round in it and the safety on, have a mishap and say drop it from your tree stand or whatever and actually have it discharge.
Yep.
And I think both of you have done extensive testing on John's triggers.
Sure. Well, you drop anything out of a tree, there's a chance something bad's going to happen. But out of all the lightweight or match quality triggers, these seem to hold up the best.
That's good.
I tell my hunter education students, I says the safety is a mechanical device prone to failure. The best I can do is make sure you have the best information and the best equipment I can provide you so that you can be successful behind your rifle, whether it's shooting paper or bringing food home for the table. You're going to be able to be proficient with your gun to a much higher level in much quicker time periods than you've ever shot before.
Oh yeah, and well, we can get into a few of my beefs already, which is why I'm really liking the fact that this is that size. So, unless either one of you have something else, why don't we reposition the camera and start to do a little
Good enough.
little gunsmithing work.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We'll be right back with you at the bench. Okay, we got the barrel and action are out of the stock, and we're all set to go. And the master is going to make me do it. So, okay, I other than the fact that it's cool and flashy, and I know that would that be a patent? Your rollerball idea?
Yeah, I got actually one patent on the Mosin Nagant. I have 2 patents for Mauser-related triggers, and 2 that have just come out for the Remington 700. And we've been stringing the patents along about 1 every 2 years, all relative to our application of ball bearings as applied to the rifle for time savings for the shooter.
Well, right off the bat, and only because I have recently been through this. The one thing I'm really liking to see for the typical end user, here is the stock Mosin trigger that would be in your Mosin. And I'm just going to pick another one.
Yeah.
This is one of John's triggers, and as you can see, they are relatively the same size. Your application might require you to do a little bit of opening up from just this small area. Say nothing like the unfortunate gut job that I've done to this one. At this moment in time, I think I'm either gonna get a new stock and start over, or I might try to bed this action a little bit more.
You could. As far as that goes, you have more than enough room to put in the Huber trigger in there.
Oh, are you sure? Maybe there's enough room to put all of them in there.
You really only need to relieve maybe 80 thousandths on either side for the drop in the width area in the midsection of the trigger. The whole installation shouldn't take you any more than 15 to 30 minutes. I tell everybody the hardest part about this is really just taking the barrel bands off the stock.
Okay.
Stock.
Okay, let's get going. Let's see. These are your customs. Okay, so now what you're telling me is that this fancy little spring that my friend Tardisia sent me is not going to be necessary with your...
You do not need that return spring. That should go right back in with anything else that you might have thought you wanted to use on the rifle.
You're sure?
That's just going to add more force against your finger and just put more tension inside the mechanism.
Well,
stack timing.
We all know the last thing we need is more tension.
Okay.
Okay, so now if I'm going to be doing this, I'll do this similar to what I would do if I was putting this, if I had taken mine apart for cleaning.
Here's the easy thing. You need your sear, the screw.
We don't need that anymore.
You need the trigger and your old pin. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to put this, first off, we make sure that the ball bearing remains in place when you go to put your trigger together so that you're not missing parts. Once this is in the function of the gun, it is effectively captured, so you don't have to worry about losing it. It'll normally go together in this fashion here. Now, here's the easy part.
Here's the easy part.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm glad I have a gunsmith here to make sure I get the screw in. So
Right. Now, what I would do is put the pivot in here.
Before I tighten it.
Right, before you tighten it.
Okay.
The reason I say that is when you go to tighten that screw, you want that sear spring to kind of center the whole trigger up in the mechanism. So you'll look for clearance on both sides and kind of even it out, even though they do radius the receiver to kind of give a guidance or a suggested direction of that sear spring.
Well, I think as we already know, mine has a tendency to be leaning out a little bit on this one, and I think this one's more true, so I'll kind of hold the sear over towards us.
Now, the overall width of the trigger is about 7/16 of an inch, and the slot on the pivot is usually quite a bit more. So once you have that in there, now here's the thing. When you got the trigger, right now, there's a little bit of slack in there, and this is what everybody was talking about, putting that spring in to return the spring. But in this mechanism, we're taking the slack out of the trigger through the adjustment in the top of the, I hope I can get that, there's a set screw in the top of the trigger.
I don't die. I'm going to show everyone.
Sure. In fact, we can show it here. If I can get this to rip off, there we go. There is a set screw, 640 set screw in the top of the shoe, which pushes a ball bearing. Oh, come on, there we go. Oop. And that's the problem we want to avoid.
Yeah, trust me when I say
okay.
With the awesome leveling.
Now, normally I grease them in with a high Teflon grease so that you're pushing the set screw that pushes the ball bearing that takes up the slack between the sear and the spring. You want to be able to take that slack out. If you want to grab the bottom of that shoe and wiggle it side to side or a little bit until I adjust out some of the tension.
Okay, so the very interesting thing about your product is that roller ball and your set screw is there to help take up that creep.
The clearance between the sear and the trigger. It actually starts moving the operation. This is a 100-year-old design. You know, you look back on it, 100 years ago, these were state-of-the-art rifles. Compared to what they had before that was flintlocks and matchlocks. But 100 years ago, these were state-of-the-art rifles around the world.
And you can see that is you're able to take up any slop that you have by adjusting that ball down
without using that whatever return spring thingy.
Yeah, and as you see, that is rock solid. For the fun of it, you can see that right. No movement, and any movement gets you a fired weapon. Okay.
Yeah, I usually do it this way.
Well, I figured I never
Okay.
do use my.
I usually just base my thumb on the back so that way you can actually see how much you're actually moving. And if you make that adjustment longer, you're going to be able to take a lot more of that creep out. We believe we can take out at least 80% of the creep before it puts you in a hazardous condition and a short sear. So pretty much this is going to give you as close in timing as you're going to get on a Mosin Nagant. And 50% reduction in group size, which is an effective improvement in your overall accuracy by a factor of 3 or 4.
Okay, well, I kind of like to see it all together now.
Yeah, you got that crater in there.
Well, I know. Are we sure? I might have to get out the Dremel if we're going to make room for this all to fit.
No, actually, you only need a couple of small sugar cubes just adjacent to the trigger. It's
You know, Saturday Night Live might be looking for someone just like you. You know what this means? It means I need to order a new Rock Solid Industries bedding pillar.
Oh, is that for the rear, or
Yes.
you needed to have that because of the trigger? The other trigger required you to have other gun parts to make it fit?
Yeah, actually this was my own personal modification, but anybody wishing to go the other route, a couple of my subscribers informed me, and yes, they were 100% correct. Rock Solid Industries does make a bedding pillar specifically made for a clearance issue with a different type of trigger.
Actually, there's it follows pretty much the same form as the original trigger. They were archaically simple. They had 3,000 women as snipers on these guns, and the secret at Leningrad was whose gun was working at 40 below zero. It wasn't the Germans, but only because that the Russians, like the Allies, were using gasoline in their fleet fuels, they were able to cut their gun oils with a drop of gasoline. The Germans couldn't do that because they ran mostly diesel fuel, and it just locked up their guns at 40 below zero. So the only guns that were running in Leningrad were the old Mosins. By the way, a lot of American companies are making Mosins and made parts for years relative to the World War on this.
And look at that. I may be just speaking from myself.
Almost looks like surgical equipment.
That's some sexy ass shit right there, I'm telling you. You know, Travis and Alex are going to be really happy. They tried to talk me into polishing my stock one, and I thought the contrast looked cool, but I'm willing to admit I was wrong. Having that shiny is wicked, but you still get kind of a shadowy area because of the...
One thing about polishing up the stainless steel, we try and get it so that the Teflon coating is just as slippery as your shoe is on the stainless steel. You actually want your finger to fall to the bottom of the trigger loop so that you get a slippery feel here. So you're not feeling any friction as you're pulling that trigger to the rear.
And look, no spring, and yet it doesn't move. That's unheard of. That's not...
Did you say you took that spring out?
Yeah, it's over here. I'll probably put a care
Oh,
package.
there it is.
I'll put
Yeah, you could probably throw it in there back in the plastic bag and put it back in your shelf.
I'll probably put a care package together for some YouTuber that... Okay, well, you know, that's... Look, mail call. There's a mail slot in my stock now.
Right, you got to remember first safety is between your ears. Before you can be safe with a gun, you got to be safe with yourself.
Out of curiosity, have you the trigger scale something constant or something that you expect with something like this?
On drop-in, without any extra springs and parts, the trigger should break somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 pounds, an honest 3 pounds. If you get your gun in from 8 to 18 pounds with all that creep, you should be able to get this thing to drop at 3 pounds. Here, I'll let you take this and I'll support the gun.
We want to catch you pulling anything sly on us. We want to actually see it. Mm-hmm. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Of course, as you see, I'm guessing that you guys have a little bit higher quality than...
We use first a Lyman Digital, but primarily we use a Dvorak. It's a trigger scan.
You liar. That was 2.75.
2.7. Well, then that's just on drop-in without any lousy springs or any other parts. So straight on drop-in, it meets the capacities.
And look, it's reliable. My firing pin isn't going forward.
No drop shots.
Yeah, we'll get some still shots for everybody at the end. I don't know, I might make them wait for it. The other little piece of awesomeness that you...
Now, something that you might not know is that we've gone to a casting with these, and we use 2 different materials. We use 304 stainless. We also use an 8620 stress-proof material. It takes a lot of the impacts at the top of the head. It's a very durable material. It's also reduces or is not real responsive to high shock loads. So it actually is a real good material, either in the black or in the stainless steel. It's meant to be a drop-in. Get used to it and go shoot.
What's the difference between these two?
Just we use abrasive water jet, and we make the ultralighting, some lightning cuts in there. It's more for cosmetics than it is for shoe inertia or mass reduction points. So it's just for those guys that want maybe just a different level of bling in their gun.
But that one is specifically stainless steel.
Correct.
And it's much lighter. What's the? I can tell you that this one that is much lighter than this one.
Generally, these triggers are 1 to 2 ounces. The Remington cartridge is up to about 3.
And yours is lighter than the stock one by quite a margin too.
There was a fair amount of adjustabilities that went into this and tolerance levels, so we were able to get our tolerance set up so you're much closer to a drop-in fit. A lot of these guns were built in unheated factories in the wintertime.
Look at how much weight we shaved off here today.
And energy that you would otherwise feel on the trigger doing what? Pushing that trigger? Yeah, you're immediately pushing that trigger. So
it's on the business.
Isn't? I don't even think.
And
there we go. Now it's loaded. Now she's tight.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start pulling it, if you get the adjustment down close, and there's nothing wrong with doing a bump test to make sure this thing shouldn't go off. Typically, even just a drop to the ground should verify that your setting is right for the sear engagement.
Should put a round in there and try it.
Pull the lead out first, right?
Yeah, the fish tank might be right above us. That might not be a good
cases.
Thing. Yeah. No, that's good because anything can happen, and I know some people probably use it, but I'll be honest, the safety mechanism on a stock Mosin Nagant is almost worthy of a come along and a tree, especially when you add the dimension of putting a scope on it.
Right.
Okay, I didn't have my Wheaties this morning. Yeah, I don't use that very much. There is stuff on the market. You can actually order this end cap with a ring. You can get your thumb in it, but I just assume have a safe, genuine product in the first place.
There was another point I was trying to remember here. There was something relative to the trigger and the bolt mechanism. Oh, yeah. Mosin Nagants run 310, 311 bullets. So if you really expect to hold your accuracies, you're not going to be using 308 diameter bullets. You're going to have to look for 310, 311 bullets. I've seen recipes out there where you can load 308 bullets into the Mosin, but they're not nearly as accurate as if you had tight bore bullets.
I've actually seen that, and several chat groups have talked about how, you know, you can load with the 308, but expect erratic results in your accuracy. Okay, well, the next step is to get out and shoot it, which honestly, guys, we had tentatively planned that for the day, but as we speak, my area is under a winter weather advisory.
Hey, you know, they said Wisconsin was colder than it was in Fairbanks, Alaska, and Siberia this year.
That's impressive.
Well, it's all right. Cut your gun oil with gasoline a little bit and continue to march.
Yes. Okay, well, I want to thank you, John, especially for an opportunity to get to meet you, let alone to have the pro present while it is work done. That is very impressive looking there.
And the trigger guy is going to give you some more options for future references here. I don't know if we should be pointing anything out or anything, but
no, I thought I would you know, save some things as a surprise. See if you know, anybody, you know, catches anything. Yeah, you know, as a side note, I heard that your company has been working on a couple of impressive items.
well, we're not only that, we're going to muzzle brakes, bipods. We've come out with a new Remington 700 trigger, and we're about ready to put electrified switching for your optics and laser rangefinders and that sort of stuff on top of your more contemporary guns, as well as expand our staging capabilities in a lot of the other guns that we do. So we originally came out with, say, the Mosin as a single stage trigger, but we're coming real rapidly into improving those staging capacities for this and other guns.
Oh, I know this is your demo one, but your big seller is the Remington 700.
Right, two-stage inspired, but we do produce them in a single stage. Typically two-stage, 1.5 pounds on up. They don't break from zero. They break, if you pull up the first stage on a 2-pound trigger, typically you break the shot from 1 pound to 2. It gives you a chance to get all your ergonomics into the gun, on position, sight presence, sight alignment, sight picture, what your target's doing in front of you, what's your wind condition. You have to be able to put it all into a concerto, choreograph your shot. It helps you in time.
Has anybody placed an order for the transparent one?
Actually, a couple of years ago, I made some transparent earrings for my wife, and she wore those to the SHOT Show one year.
Does it look good on me? Now, I've having done the research as of late, you have quite the reputation for the Remington 700s. So, and I know a few people would, you know, probably maybe question the overall cost, but I'm shocked at how much money someone will put into the whole rifle, and what is the one thing that can truly make the difference of not only enjoyment of using it, because if any of you guys have shot a stock Mosin Nagant, that one over there, my trigger scale goes to 10 pounds and that goes clean off of it. My guess is the trigger pull is around 18 pounds on that one.
That's very possible. 8 to 18 pounds typically issued guns.
And something like this, you have completely changed the game when it comes to shooting. This one is not going to be a hunting rifle. This is going to be a bench gun, which is, you know, it's still follow-up shots are obviously important. Being able to, you know, we'll get into a few things in a future video, but there's a lot of things you may not consider when you place your shot, and one of them might be something as simple as where do all the gases go.
Right. One thing to note, most hunters, if they could hold a 3-inch circle at 100 yards, it's a dead animal. That's food on the table. But then again, you get into the match shooters, and if they can hold 1 inch at 100 yards, they're doing good. The quality of the guns and the performances of the rifles that they're employing now, you're actually getting ultra long range distances out beyond 1,000 yards, a mile and a half. And some of these guys are so good, they're actually achieving arc seconds of angle. In other words, holding your group size of all your shots inside the diameter of the bullet, very close to 5 holes or 5 rounds in the same hole. So
at a mile.
Thinking of timing is everything. It's all in the trigger and the timing of how your shot proceeds downrange.
It's fingerprints.
It happens.
That's bling that you
Yes.
can't get anywhere else. You got to put in some hard work.
That is incredible looking. Okay, well, again, I want to thank you guys for coming up here. It was awesome to get and talking about some of this stuff, and I look forward to getting out and shooting this. It's obviously not going to happen today, because even if it wasn't snowing, raining, it's still 33 degrees right now.
Well, we're still going to be looking forward to running into you at some of the ranges that are around your area. This is actually, it's been a while since I've been up to Minnesota, so I might just come up here to run into you and see what your people have to offer as far as good long distance ranges.
Yeah, I need to find, my goal is with this is I want to obviously start, it's bore sighted. I want to start at 100 yards, and I want to slowly work my way up to see what this thing is capable of.
I've known full-length Mosins to be able to hold a silver dollar at 700 yards, 3 shots on a silver dollar at 700 yards. So they are quite capable of it.
All right, well, you've definitely helped to add to making that possible. So I will. I'll turn you guys.
Is that what
loose.
they call pimping your Mosin?
Yeah, that's. I'm pretty happy with the way this one has turned out. I wanted something that had kind of a modern look to it, but it needed to be 100% usable, and the stuff that is on here right now is all going to add to its not only enjoyment to shoot it, but its overall accuracy.
Absolutely, and I'll do anything I can to help you get even better. Tight groups.
All right. Well, thank you, John.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, guys. Next time we talk about this, we should be out at the range. Should be out at the range, and it's 2 cameras. Which one do I look at? Be out at the range, and we'll be able to get an opportunity to start to get this thing dialed in. Like I said, right now as it sits, it's only been bore sighted, but it looks like it is dead on at 100 yards. So, Ebomi, out of here. Evil Neil.
Oh,
Shooting.
yeah.
Just look at those.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's a little bit comes out of there.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Knocking stuff off the table.
What do you think of that trigger?
That trigger is super nice. It's like nothing.
£1.25.
Yeah, that is light. Breaks easy.
warming it up.
Yeah.